In July of 1926, a group of boys from the Brotherhood of St. Andrew, based at St. James Cathedral here in Toronto, attended a leadership camp at Long Point on Balsam Lake. After dinner, on the evening of July 20th, 13 boys and 2 directors set out in a 30-foot war canoe headed for Covacon. Somewhere between Grand Island and Indian Point, the canoe capsized. They tried swimming the craft back to the island, but the wind made any progress impossible. A number of the boys and one of the directors, Arthur Shea Butcher, were not strong swimmers. As the night went on, 10 boys, plus Shea Butcher, lost their back on ground. The remaining 3 boys and camp director made it back to the island after the wind reversed direction. Exhausted, they slept and in the morning made their way back to Long Point, bringing the terrible news. I'm Doug Patterson, a resident of Balsam Lake. So when I was a young child, my mother used to drag us up to the church at the end of the road on Sunday mornings, which we hated because it was a beautiful day usually. And I would sit in the church, and this plaque was on the wall up to our right from our usual pew, and I would read the names of the boys and think about the story.
My name is Tanya Dunlop. I'm with the Kirkfield and District Historical Society. This plaque is in memory of the St. Andrew's Brotherhood. We brought the plaque down from the Kirkfield Museum for the rededication ceremony here at St. James in Toronto.
Remembering them: Raymond William George Allen, Joseph Edwards, Frederick Harold Bakewell, Charles Henry Gordon Heel, Walter Mark Burgess, Oliver Charles Wilson Mardell, Frank Frederick Burkett, Harry P. Mills, William James Vernon Clark, Arthur Robert Shea Butcher, John Edward Wingington. We will remember them.
O God, by whose mercy the faithful departed find rest, we pray your blessing upon this monument, which we rededicate as a memorial to the victims of the tragic accident on Balsam Lake.
My name is Jennifer Burkett. Frank Burkett was my uncle. This event happened when my dad was small. He was the youngest in his family, and I can only imagine for my grandparents how tragic this must have been. He spoke of this a few times. Of course, that generation didn't say a lot. He would get sort of teary-eyed and say that, he lost his big brother in an accident, that he drowned. That's what we knew.
My name is Richard Bell, and I'm the writer and director of the feature film Brotherhood, the true story of the Brotherhood of St. Andrew. I think when we go to the cinema, we want to see people doing things that we can't imagine ourselves ever doing. To see people doing great feats of heroism, especially when they're everymen. It's a story that I read about in a newspaper in 2006. There's a tiny little blurb about the 80th anniversary mass that was being done in Kirkfield, and it made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up when I read about it. I thought it was such a wonderful story of survival, and it was a transformative story about boys becoming men over the course of an evening. When I read it, I just couldn't get it out of my head, and I felt, wow, it's really sticking with me. It's really like riding along on my shoulder, and that's why I felt compelled to make it into a film.
I came here after the movie and started the research that I have been doing for the last 5 years. And when I saw the bottom of the monument there, it just seemed like there was something wrong, and a groundskeeper happened by, and I asked him, and he said, yeah, that was toppled by vandals about 35 years ago. And I asked him if the church was, the cemetery was going to do anything, and he said, well, no, nothing's been done. And that was when I started the efforts and getting in touch with the folks at the church primarily and the cemetery. A few years later, I got an article in the Toronto Star, the Jack Lakey, the Fixer article, and that garnered huge attention. And all of a sudden, all the doors opened. We really got the ball rolling. That was about a year ago.
I'm Gage Munroe. I play Jack Wigington in the movie Brotherhood. We were shooting the scenes that were set in the lake, and it felt especially somber when we were doing those. And it was nice because it felt like the whole cast and crew understood the gravity of the moment and of the scenes there. Everyone was really friendly, but they were also so professional. And so when it came time to do someone's death scene, or when it came time to do a really intense scene between a few characters when they were in the boat, everyone kind of rose to the occasion, and it was really great to have that kind of cast and crew around me.
The church did a great job.
And as you can see, it's actually an exact duplicate down to the millimeter. So when we had this made, they drilled a hole in the base and then a hole in the cross, about this high up, I believe, and put a big metal rod in there.
Hi, my name's Leslie Wagner. Hi, I'm Vicki Wagner. Our grandfather Leonard O'Hara was one of the survivors of the Balsam Lake tragedy. He was 15 years old, just turned 15. He didn't talk much about this tragedy. He had survivor's guilt, we surmise. He was holding on to the canoe and also holding on to one of the boys who did eventually drown. I'm guessing he got hypothermic and couldn't hold on to himself and him any longer. And that's all of the story that I know. Again, it wasn't spoken of.
So happy that you're doing this, and I'm thrilled that we can come. I hope that, you know, he knows that we're here, and I know my dad would be so happy that we came. So I'm emotional over someone I didn't meet, but it's, yeah, really lovely. Thank you.
Thank you, and we wouldn't be here for what,